Okay, so for the front and side cover, we're going to take our two side flaps. We are simply going to adhere one to each side. Okay, and if you want to cut a sliver off of this edge or this and this edge, you can. Like if you want your window to be a little bit bigger, that's totally preference. Okay, so my glue is my son has headphones in, so he can't hear himself. Well, he doesn't realize how loud he is, I should say. Okay. Okay. And if you wanted to, before you started adhering this, you could take a piece of cardstock and put it down here just to kind of clean all this up. I don't usually do that. I just don't think it's, I guess I don't think it's necessary, but I also don't want to waste the paper, so feel free to do that. I'm just going to cover this up with my design paper, so. And then I'm going to take this other one. And I'm going to adhere it directly to the other side of the front inside cover. And I'm pretty much going to go right up against the edge. It's not going to get in the way of anything, so. Okay, and then for our two side pockets, or I'm sorry, yeah, side pockets, corner pockets, one is going to go there and one is going to go there. And you don't even have to cut these off if you don't want to, because they're going to get completely hidden by decorative paper, okay? So I am only going to do one side at a time. Otherwise, I would have to make sure the entire thing is lined up at the same time, and I don't want to do that. Okay. Okay. And repeat for the right hand side, okay? All right, so there is the front and side cover. Oh, and I didn't have you cut this yet, but you could decorate it, of course, and put whatever you wanted in there. But I have, in my first album, I cut out some 6 1/4 by 4 1/4 cardstock pieces as well. And that is what I use to hold these two flaps shut, okay? So you can wait to decide however you want to decorate it or what size pieces you want to use. But mine measures 6 1/4 by 4 1/4, so that the front I can put ephemera, and on the back you can put a 4 by 6 card. You could even mat it by putting a 4 1/8 by 6 1/8 design paper, and then a 4 by 6 picture. Okay, so moving on to page 1. So what I did here, So this is the pop-up. This is the pop-up with all the different pieces that I fussy cut. So all we do here is take our large flap and adhere it to the top edge of page 1, okay? And you do want to, excuse me, you also want to make sure it's against the right edge, because we cut this about an eighth of an inch shy of the width of our page, so that it doesn't get in the way when we fold it, okay? So you're lining up your 1/2 inch flap with the top edge of page 1, making sure the right edge is aligned with the right edge, okay? And I'm gonna turn this around. So I'm still working at the top and right edge of page 1. I just have my book upside down, okay? So I can see better. And oftentimes when I do this, I will also take a contrasting color just to help me, okay? Just to help me make sure I get it lined up correctly. Okay, so for our closure piece, all I'm going to do is find the center of the bottom edge. Okay. Okay, so it should be about 3 7/8 if my math is correct. And then, yeah, that's about center there. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just gonna line that up like that, okay? And you are making sure you're adhering the 1/2 inch flap and not the 5/8 of an inch area there. Or I'm sorry, not the 1/8 inch gusset, I think. All right. Okay, there we go. And if you would like to apply a magnet now, go right ahead. I'll just go ahead and do that just in case we have anybody new here who's never done this before. Okay, so we're going to take a magnet. I don't want it too close to the edge, so that's good right about there. I'm going to make sure that I try to wrap the score tape actually around the edges of the magnet. There we go. Okay, and then I'm simply going to take another magnet, let it cling to the first, and then this time I'm going to, oh well, don't let it cling just yet. Take another piece of score tape, sticky side up. Okay, so the sticky side is up, it's sticking to my thumb. Hold it in place, let the magnet cling. Okay. That way when we close this, that sticky side up tape will stick to there. And just make sure your 1/8 of an inch gusset right there is standing straight up. Okay. Just like so. Okay. All right. There we go. So I am going to show you how I do the pop-up piece, but let's get all of our other page interactive elements attached. All we are going to do is take our 2 small flaps, adhere them to the left and to the right. Okay? And actually, let's do the large ones first. And we can do the reason we probably should do the large ones first is so that we cut this 1/8 of an inch shorter than the width of our page, so as to not have it interfere with the closing and the opening of the page. So if we put the large ones on first, we have that 1/8 of an inch guide to help us with where to put these. But it really doesn't matter. You could put this one in first and just make sure it's 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of the page. But I'm gonna do this one first, okay? So I'm gonna take my 2 large flaps. One's gonna get adhered to the top, one's gonna get adhered to the bottom. And I'm making sure that I'm staying on this edge of the page so as not to go up against the spine, I guess, the inside edge. Okay, and same thing to the top of the page. I am being careful to flatten out that 1/8 of an inch page spine so that I don't pulverize it as I'm burnishing. Okay, so our top flap and our bottom flap each have their own little 1/8 of an inch spine. Okay, and they're lined up with the right edge of page 2. Okay, and so then for our 2 small flaps, we'll start with the one on the right. That'll be easier. We just want to adhere it directly against the right edge, and it'll fit perfectly, absolutely perfectly in between these 2 pieces, okay? Sorry, I was just trying to decide if I needed to miter this piece. I didn't need to, but could have. All right. Actually, I should have. So if it's not too late, yeah, let's miter these. Okay, miter, miter, miter. All right, let me make a note that needs to be mitered as well. Page 1, page 2, page 3. Okay, so there we go. Now what we can do is take out our pockets, okay, for page 3. Okay. And we are going to place the 2 small pockets on the 2 small flaps and the 2 large pockets on the 2 large flaps. Okay?
Mommy,
Yes, baby.
can I play the computer?
Sure. Until Ryan knocks on the door.
What?
Remember, if your friend's coming knocking, you're going outside. Okay, so we're just going to, let me just, there we go. Okay, perfect. okay, baby? Oh, and then of course, I don't do a 1/2 inch flap to close up the pocket when there are a lot of interactive elements happening. I don't want too much bulk, so just run a line of glue or a tiny line of score tape there just to close up that end. Okay, there we go. Beautiful. Okay. Same thing on this side, all right. Okay, so then we're going to do the same thing with our large pockets. Just make sure you are not covering up that 1/8 of an inch flap spine, okay? There we go, okay. Okay, so I've got it lined up there. And I am being careful not to, it might not look like it, but being careful not to put too much stress on that 1/8 of an inch spine, so it's probably easier to burnish the top end like that. But then when I burnish down here, I just want to make sure I flatten that down so I'm not hurting that 1/8 of an inch spine there. Okay, so then I will run some glue along the bottom of that pocket. And then put my glue here. Okay. Okay. There we go. Joshy. Okay, 1 second, honey. Okay, so let me flatten that out if I can. Burnish the bottom of that pocket. Okay, and then for the top flap, I'm just going to turn that upside down and do the same thing. Using a rag. Okay. Oh yes, so there we go. Oops, you might want to burnish that again. I did have a 1/8 of an inch spine on these two flaps as well, but it was just too in the way of this page close. Oh, well, it still doesn't want to close very well, does it? So, I mean, it works out just fine. As you can see in this one. This one closes quite easily. Okay. See, I have a 1/8 of an inch gusset there, or spine for these two flaps, but I just felt like it was too bulky. And it didn't want to close at first, but it does once it gets used to it, so. Okay, so that is page 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so that's right. Page 2 is this here, which we're going to get to. Okay, so for page 4, okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to take our picture mat and we want to adhere it to the top of page 4 on the left edge, and we do want to leave about a 1/4 of an inch of space at the top, okay, and a larger space at the bottom, because we don't want to overlap that pocket. So it might be a better idea actually to go ahead and adhere our pocket down first, okay. And this this flap, I did not have this issue with that first album, but it doesn't want to sit straight up. It's so strange. I wonder what I did wrong here. Okay, well, moving on. That's bugging me. It's really bugging me a lot. I mean, well, there is nothing to be done about it now. Okay, so we've got our pocket on, and then you can take your picture mat and put it pretty much wherever you want it. I just would leave a space between the pocket and the picture mat. Don't cover it up for sure. Okay. And this one did not need to be mitered because it's not up against the edge of the top or bottom edge of the page, so we're not putting double bulk on the edges. Okay, and then if you just want to take these two and just stick them in the pocket for now, we don't need to do anything with them at this point. All right, and then for this page, we have those 3 small ephemera backing pieces, closure piece, and a picture book. Okay, so let's take our closure piece and adhere that to the center of the right edge. Never seem to find a pencil that has lead in it. Okay. Okay, so right about there. And that's about the center. Okay, and then we are going to put a magnet over here, okay, on this end to keep it closed. But we don't want our picture book to be in the way of that. So just make sure that your picture book is far enough to the right that a magnet doesn't have to go through paper, cardstock, paper, paper, cardstock, okay? So my magnet will be right over there. Okay, so I'm just going to adhere the back of my booklet straight down to my page. Okay, and I feel like I'm missing a pocket. No, there is no pocket on this page. So for these 3 ephemera, we can also probably just put those there for now, okay? And put your magnet on. So just make sure when you place it to the back end of this pocket, that it does end up in this space here and not on top of your booklet, okay? Okay, and for the next page, I've lost count where we are. 876, okay. So we can just start with our large pocket first. It doesn't matter whether it's like this or whether it's like this. And neither does the small one. So we can just adhere it directly to the bottom of the large pocket, okay? And then when that one's on, we can adhere this one directly. And what I'm gonna do is once this bottom one is on, I'm going to adhere the top one centered in the remaining space. So let me get this one on first. Okay, so then we have a space. Hopefully, yeah, you can see it just fine. So then I'm going to center this other small pocket in between that space. I'm going to get it in there as centered as possible. Okay. Okay, and then we can take that large pocket that contains our 2 small pockets, and this, it does matter which way we put this on because we want our pocket openings to be at the top, okay? And we're going to adhere that directly to the bottom and left edge of this page, okay? And then for page 7, we're going to leave that alone for now. And then page 8, let's see here. Okay, I'm sorry. My husband is texting me. Okay, let's do the pocket first. All right, so the pocket is going to get adhered to the bottom of page 8 and to the left edge. Okay, and then our large flap can get adhered to the top edge of page 8, lining it up with the left again. Okay? And then lastly, we can actually just stick this in your pocket because we can't adhere this down until we've picked out our design paper. So, all right. Okay, and for the back cover, okay. For the back cover, we'll take our large flap, okay, and all right, so our large flap is going to sit into our book like this, okay? So here we have the 1/2 inch, oh, sorry. So here we have the 1/2 inch flap that is going to get adhered to the bottom of our book so that it opens like that, okay? So there's our 1/2 inch flap there, all right? So with it sitting the way that we want it to sit, we are going to take our small flap and we are going to adhere its 1/2 inch flap to the bottom of this top piece so that when we're done, we have that, okay? Okay, just like so. Okay, so now we can take this one and we can glue that, we can glue its 1/2 inch flap to the bottom, and we are going to center it, okay, because it's considerably shorter than the width of our cover. So just center it. You can eyeball it if you'd like. All right, and then last but not least, we're going to take this closure piece. I am going to find, you can eyeball it if you want to. Just make sure that I'm somewhat centered. It's about good. And I'm just gluing this to the top edge of this back inside cover, okay? Just make sure it looks good. Yes, okay, good. All right. And again, we're gonna put a magnet here and the opposing one will catch on this, okay? All right. I'm just going to figure out what paper I want to use for this pop-up so that I can just show you how I do it. I'm going to figure out what paper I want to put inside here so that I can show you how I do this pop-up. And then I am going to show you how I cut my 12 by 12 feature page to line it up in here. He just can't find something. I'm going to help him right now, honey. And I'll show you how to do those 3, okay? Next. Okay, so let's go ahead to the page that has the 2 large flaps and the two small flaps, each flap containing its own pocket. And we're gonna get out the feature page. If you're following me, I'm sorry, you're gonna get out whatever page you're using, but if you're taking a full 12 by 12 design and you wanna do it that way, get that piece of paper out and trim off 1/4 of an inch from either the left or the right edge, okay? So if you are following me, I'm gonna trim 1/4 inch off of this edge here, okay? So I'm just going to, over here, oh, silly doggy, what are you doing, silly? Over here, I'm gonna line up this edge with 11 3/4. So this edge is lined up with 11 3/4. That way I'm cutting 1/4 off of that edge. Okay, so now that I've done that, what we wanna do is we want to cut off 2 1/8 of an inch from this edge and 2 1/8 of an inch from this edge, okay? So, however you want to do that, or whichever side you want to do that first. So 2 1/8. 2 1/8, okay. And then from this side, 2 1/8. So what you are left with is still the whole sheet, but just kind of cut up into sections here, okay? And then, oh, I probably should have had you make your top cut at the same time as the bottom cut, but that's okay. Okay, and actually you wanted to cut 1/4 off the top as well, so I should have had you do that before we cut into these, but that's okay. You'll just make them and you'll just do it 3 separate cuts. So I think I will take, let me see here. It probably does not matter at all because 1/4 inch is not that much, but okay, so I probably don't want to take 1/4 inch off the top because I'll cut off the owl's head. And if I take 1/4 inch off the bottom, I will maybe cut off some rabbit feet, but that's it. So let's just take 1/4 inch off of the, so if you've already made these 2 side cuts, that's fine. You're just gonna take 1/4 inch off the bottom. So we'll just do that in sections, okay? So here is the bottom of your piece of paper. Okay, so this is the bottom edge from which I want to cut off 1/4. So I will do it this way. So this measures exactly 12 inches, so I'm just gonna line this end up with 11 3/4. There we go. I chopped 1/4 off of the bottom. Same thing, I'm gonna line up this edge with 11 3/4. Okay, so what you're left with is you've got your 12 by 12 sheet, and we have taken 1/4 inch off the bottom edge, top or bottom, whichever one you want, and we've taken 1/4 inch off of either the right or the left edge, whichever one you want. Once you've done that, then you want to go ahead and cut in 2 1/8 of an inch and cut in 2 1/8 of an inch to do that, okay? And then you're gonna do the same thing from this edge and from that edge, okay?
It's okay.
And that one is going to be 3 1/8 of an inch, all right? So you're gonna cut 3 1/8 of an inch off of this one, this one, and this one, and 3 1/8 of an inch off of this one, and this one, okay? So however you want to do that. So 3 1/8. 3 1/8. 3 1/8. Okay. So then I'm going to take this piece, take it off the bottom, 3 1/8. I'm going to take this piece, 3 1/8 off the bottom, and this piece, 3 1/8 off the bottom. Okay, so that is what you're left with. All right, you basically still have your 12 by 12, or rather 11 3/4 by 11 3/4. And you've just chopped it up in such a way. Okay, so this piece, this piece, this piece, and this piece you can save for scraps. And then the remaining 4 pieces will fit beautifully in your album, okay? All right. I'm sorry, my puppy is playing around with all of my stuff. And she's moving my light source all around. I'm sorry. Okay, so just go ahead and take your glue or whatever adhesive you use for scrapbook paper and just adhere those to the pockets, okay? To the top of the pockets. We're gonna use a different paper to go inside the pockets, okay? So just glue all those down. Okay, so I'm gonna show you how I do page 1. And as you can see, I've already started to pick out what papers I want in my book so that I could show you some of these elements. So I went ahead and determined what I wanted on the front inside cover, at least this part of the front inside cover. Pretty self-explanatory, just measure, cut your paper with whatever size border you want. And then for this, I just cut a rectangle. That was, you know, so the width of this corner pocket is 3 inches. So, and then the length of that corner pocket is, you know, 4 1/2, let's say. So then I just cut a rectangle that's 3 by 4 1/2 minus my 1/8 inch border. Or if you do a 1/4 inch border, subtract that out. And then I just lined it up and cut. So I've measured, cut, and adhered a piece here. Okay, so now we can start on the inside. So again, I measured and cut a piece of decorative paper, and it should measure, yours should also measure the same as mine, 11 3/8 by 7 1/2, okay? So 11 3/8 by 7 1/2, and you are gonna have a bigger border over here, remember, because we cut our flap to be 1/8 of an inch shy of the width of our page. So basically you're gonna line your decorative paper all the way up against the right edge. And it's gonna fit in there perfectly. And then what I did was I just took a pencil. Once I had this dry fitted perfectly, I took a pencil and marked the where the score mark is on the right and on the left. I marked where it lines up with that score line, that crease. And then I put this in my scoreboard and I scored, okay? So don't do what I did, don't adhere this yet. You can see where I messed up my paper because I adhered it. Because first we need to cut out the pop-ups, okay? So, if you have one of these, they work wonders. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm going to lay my ruler, okay, so that it is 1 1/2 inches away from the left edge of my cardstock, okay? So I've got my straight edge is 1 1/2 inches away from the edge of my cardstock. Okay, and then I want a 4-inch line. 2 inches needs to be above the crease, 2 inches needs to be below the crease. So I'm just gonna pick any whole number on my ruler. I'll pick 14 because it's right there. I'm still making sure my ruler is 1.5 inches away from my edge. Okay. And 14 just happens to be the whole number that is meeting up with this score line. And I'm going to get my head in here because I have to get this perfect. We want exactly a 4-inch line. 2 inches of it is above the crease, 2 inches is below the crease, okay? So I'm starting at 16, going down to 12. All right. Okay. Like so. Exact same thing on the other side. Your ruler should be 1.5 inches away from the edge of your paper. Let me make sure I did that. 1.5 inches away. Oops, did I? No, I did 1 3/4. Oh, I did 1.5. Okay. Yeah, I did 1.5. Okay, great. So same thing, I'm gonna line my ruler up 1.5 inches away, okay? So the straight edge of my ruler is exactly 1.5 inches away from the edge of my cardstock. And again, we want to draw a line that is 4 inches long, excuse me, 4 inches long. 2 inches will be above this crease, 2 inches will be below. So I'm just going to pick any whole number to meet up with that crease, which is 13. And then I'm going to draw my line. So I'm going to get my head in your way, possibly. Okay, so that's what we have. Okay, and then we need one. So, this is going to be a pop-up. Of course, it'll be scored right here, and it'll be scored here. Okay. Before we do that, let's go ahead and cut out the smaller pop-up that I've placed at the bottom in this area. So now we want to repeat that process, but this time the ruler is going to be 2.5 inches away from the edge. Okay, so 2.5 inches away from our left edge. Okay, actually, very quickly, measure 3 inches down on these two lines. Okay, so I am simply starting at the very top. I'm simply starting at the very tip top of that line, and I'm measuring 3 inches down. Same thing over here. I'm starting at the very tip top, and I'm measuring 3 inches down, making a mark. 3 inches down, making a mark. Okay, so now we want to line our ruler up exactly 2.5 inches away from the edge of our page. Okay, so my ruler is 2.5 inches away from the left edge of my page. And I have 14 lined up with that 3-inch tick mark. Okay, so I'm going to start at the 14 and I'm going to go down exactly 2 inches. Same thing over here. Lining my ruler up 2.5 inches away from the edge of the page. And I'm going to pick whatever whole number is closest to that tick mark, that 3-inch tick mark, which is 15 again. Sorry, I have to get this perfect. All right, then I'm going to start there and go down 2 inches. So that is what we have now. Okay. All right, and so now what we want to do, excuse me, we want to score from the top of this line to until that score mark meets the top of that line, and also at the bottom of those two far left and right lines. Score from the bottom of this one until it meets the bottom of that one. You are going to go straight through and dissect these two lines, okay? And then for the smaller lines, you're going to score from one top to the other, and you're going to score from one bottom to the other. So again, I don't have any magic special way to do that. I just try my best to line up those, up with a groove. You could use your straight edge. You could place your straight edge so that it's like right at one of your grooves. And then you could line up your paper. Of course, you want the straight edge to be at the top as well. So however you want to do it. think I've got them both lined up with the 6-inch. Oh, it's sliding on me. There we go. Okay. So I have scored so that the top of this line, so the score mark connects the top of these two lines and the bottom of those two lines, and the same with the smaller lines. I've made a score mark that connects the top of those two lines and the bottom. So basically what's going to happen when we fold this page down, this box is going to pop out. Oh, I have to cut it first. Once we cut it, that is. So just use your ruler, or whatever, your ruler and your X-Acto knife or whatever you'd like to use to cut those lines. Cut directly on them, okay? So I am going to be a little bit out of frame possibly because I need to make sure I'm cutting exactly on those lines. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So now when we fold this down, after we have trained this to pop out, it will do so. So first, go ahead and get this to fold like that. Same thing with the smaller one. Get that one to fold like that. Okay. And then this one will fold. Okay. And all right. I'm going gently at first. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so once I've ensured that I did that correctly, then, and I probably should have marked up the back of the paper, so that's okay, we can just erase. I can't find my bone folder. There it is. Okay, so now that we've done that correctly, we can just burnish everything. Perfect, and then we can erase. Okay, and so then we want to take our page 1 in our album. Open that up, and we can adhere that directly in. Okay, so of course we do not want to put any glue on the pop-up parts, okay? have not applied glue to the top yet. I'm just getting the bottom stuck down, okay. All right, and then we can apply our glue to the top. I do want to make sure I get it right up there in that edge, okay? Okay, so there we have it. That's how I did that part. And then for the pop-ups, what I did with this one is I simply cut out some pretty elements and I glued them directly to, oops, I glued them directly onto the front of these squares, okay? So some coming out of here, coming out of here, and here, and then I did those first, and then by way of like adding some more dimensional backgrounds, I put some back here, and how I did that was I took a strip of paper and then I scored it into 4 sections, okay? And the important thing there, let me get a piece of paper. So let's just pretend that this is our pop-up here, okay? The important thing is that you have one section adhered to the top of your square and one section adhered to the back. And I made a mistake somewhere. I don't even remember where that was now. Was it in this album? Oh, I think it was this. Okay, yeah. So in this album, if you can see, these elements here are kind of flat against the back. These right here, they are supposed to pop up, but because they're not attached to the actual pop-up piece, there's nothing to pull them open, okay? So, I mean, it's still cute. It's still very cute, and it's your album for sure. Do whatever inspires you, but you know, if you do something like that, you just have to kind of push it up so that it kind of stands open. But yeah. Oops. Okay. So as I was saying, the key then, actually, let me see here. Where's my scoreboard? Okay. Okay, so so this was 6 inches long. I scored it I did a 1 inch block, a 2 inch block, a 1 inch block, and then a 2 inch block, okay? So let's fold that, fold that, fold that, okay? So then we're left with that, okay? So again, to get your pop-up elements to actually open with the page, one is going to be adhered to the very back of your flap, and then one is going to be adhered to the pop-up element itself. So it's going to go just like that, okay? And then whatever your pop-up element is, you'll glue it to this right here, okay? So that's all I did. I just went through my collection. If you want to do that page last so that you can see what you have left, I'm sure you'll have lots because this is graphic 45. You have all kinds of fun stuff left over. But I just, you know, fussy cut what I wanted. So these 3 stamps I just glued directly to one of my pop-up blocks. This little chipboard piece or sticker, I'm not sure, I don't remember what that was. I just glued directly to here, and then I glued the bird directly there as well with the feet kind of behind it. This flower was glued directly on top, the bird, these. So for this one, I only had 2 of those strips that I cut for these 2 flowers. And then this hummingbird I glued directly to the flower, okay? So that's how you do that. So just kind of fussy cut things, glue them where you want them. And if you want any more other than what you glue to the 2 blocks, use your strips. Okay. For page 2, I'm going to show you how I did that as well. Okay. So I've determined what I want where for pages 2 and 3, okay, which I'm not working on 3 yet, but I like them to kind of match. So I figured out what I want for page 2. And we have this little booklet, okay, or it's a base. I think, yes, we call this our base. So we have our base, and then we just have our page, okay? So we need to figure out what we want to go there. You can adhere that whenever you're ready. Okay, and to make our pop-up mechanism, okay, we have our actual mechanism piece, and then we have our actual pop-up, okay? So the base, the mechanism, the pop-up. All right, so figure out what paper you want to go inside your base. Okay, so this is going out there. Do I want to adhere that? Actually, yeah, don't adhere this if you want a closure. That's actually really important. I hope you didn't just listen to me because I am going to use a closure for this. I'm actually going to use that. So don't adhere this down yet. We will do that. For this piece, we can go ahead and adhere that down. Perfectly safe to do so. Okay, and then we can go ahead and figure out what we want on the inside and go ahead and adhere those right away. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to take this piece okay, and with it folded in the position, we are going to adhere it into our little base piece, okay, like so. And we want to make sure that the point is perfectly tucked into the crease here, okay? As much as it'll go into the crease. And I'm just centering it between the right and the left. Okay, I have it where I want it. And we're just going to apply adhesive. To this triangle here at the top. All right, my glue had a clog. then we can go ahead and apply our adhesive to this side. And there we go. Okay, so then we're going to take our pop-up piece, okay, and we want it positioned so that it's got, sorry, we want it positioned so that the center is a peak, okay, like so. And we want to line it up over top of our mechanism so that this very center crease right here lines up directly with the center of this of our X. Okay, so however you need to do that to make a center mark. Okay, so basically I've just marked the center of the top edge of this mechanism. It's in line with the center of the score lines, of all three score lines. Okay, and then we're going to use that to know, we're going to use that little pencil mark to know exactly where to place our pop-up piece. Okay, so the center crease that's forming a peak is going to get lined up right with that pencil mark. Okay, and you can line up the top edge of your pop-up with the top edge of your mechanism, just like that. Okay, so I'm going to hold this down in place. I'm going to fold this over, and I'm just going to apply adhesive above this center score line. So I'm going to apply adhesive in this entire section. If you're going to use score tape, you could always draw a pencil line right here to tell you where to put it. I'm sorry about the noise in the background. I really wanted to get this done. Okay, keeping it in place, we're going to fold this one over, and this time we're going to put our adhesive on the lower half underneath of this score line. Okay.
Alexa, stop.
Okay. And if you wanted to let this sit, you could, but we are pretty much done. This is what's going to happen when you fold it. And it does take maybe a fold or two to really train itself. Oh, that's all it took. How about that? So I'm going to be putting my book in sideways like this. Okay, so that when I open it, it opens like an actual book. You could do it like this if you size it correctly. You could do it like this. So I'm going to be doing this. Okay. So the only thing left is you just need to measure and cut whatever pieces you would like to put here. Pretty easy, self-explanatory. You could decorate here. You could put little stickers or whatnot. And then when you're ready, dry fit this. Dry fit your decorative paper. Okay. Dry fit this. And then for whatever closure you're going to use, let me just make sure mine is perfectly. Okay, so I've got my decorative paper exactly where I want it. I've got my booklet exactly where I want it. So I'm just going to go ahead and place that. Okay. And let's see here, 2 1/4. Yep, that's perfect. Yes, okay, and then I will put a little hole Here in my paper, I'll put my closure in. I'll insert the brad. Then I can go ahead and adhere this down. I'll probably cover the back of the brad with score tape for extra reinforcement. I'll adhere this down. Then I'll adhere this down, close my closure. And that's it. And decide what you want to put here. And then that is it for page 2. Okay? So that is how I did that. And page 3. So you just have to decide again what kind of paper you want to put here. Measure, cut, adhere. Pretty easy. And then for this one, I did use another closure. So if you're going to do the same thing, don't adhere this piece. Don't adhere this one down until you poke your hole. Insert your brad through, or whatever closure you're going to do. And then for page, I guess this is page 4, I went ahead and decided what papers I'm going to use. This one's also pretty easy. Just measure and cut your decorative paper for here, okay? Measure and cut whatever paper you want to use for the front and back of your picture mat. Measure and cut what you want to use for this, okay? And then don't adhere this piece down yet, okay? Because, actually here, let's do this. Let's glue these on. Okay. Okay, so now that those two are on, determine where you want it to sit. And actually, we can go ahead and we might as well do this one as well. Okay, so you have a piece here ready to be adhered, but we're not going to do that yet. So we can kind of determine how we want these to look. Let me see here. Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. So I like that. I like that. So what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and adhere them together, okay? Okay, and then I will put them in place. Okay, so right about there is where I want my brad. Okay, so then I can dry fit this. Figure out exactly where I want that to be positioned when it's not overlapping the edge of the page, okay? It's not overlapping the bottom of the page, so that's perfect. All right, now I can poke my little hole here. Hold it on here, put my brad through, close the prongs on the back, secure this down. Oh, well, of course, put my line up those two holes, put on the closure, put the brad through, adhere this down. So once this is all set, I will figure out, this will be stuck. And then I'll stick a magnet right on the back of this and the other one here. Okay, so we can just swing it down when we want to open this, and when we swing it back up, it magnets right in place. Okay, and then this one, very, very easy. You're just measuring, cutting, and gluing down your pieces. We already have a magnet to hold the closure. Okay, so you're just cutting and gluing down whatever papers you've decided to use. Once you have that one down, you can glue this down. Make sure you don't cover up your magnet, okay? And then once you have all that down, you can just glue whatever pieces you want onto these three, okay? And then just position them however you think they look cute on your closure. That's it, okay? For this page, it's just measuring your spaces. You have two pockets that are exactly the same. Cut your paper, adhere it down. This pocket goes all the way down, but you don't need to cut your decorative paper that deep because no one's going to see it. So I would probably do like 3 inches deep. Okay. So then I'll just show you how I did this page. Okay. 8-7, which is page 7. So the very first thing I did was I figured out what I wanted to use as my decorative insert, or pocket, I should say. So let me figure out what paper I want to use. Okay, then for page 7, so all I did was I fussy cut out part of a scene from our collection. Okay, so this is what I cut, all right? And I needed another piece of cardstock that measures 8 5/8 long, okay? So 8 5/8. The height is really just going to depend on what you are using as your decorative pocket. So once that is on there, I needed mine to be 3.5 inches. So that's what I have. I have 8 5/8 by 3.5. I scored 1/2 from both ends, okay? So that this is going to be a pocket. But before I adhere that down, I want to adhere this down in place, and I did leave a little tiny border. I like my little 1/8 of an inch border all the way around. And after that's completely adhered down, I'll fussy cut around it, okay? So everywhere where you see cardstock right here will be gone, okay? There'll just be a little border, and then I will adhere that entire thing down to my book, okay? By gluing these 2 flaps. And then once that's on, whatever piece I wanted to use for my back will slide right under the pocket, covering up your flaps. So that's how I did that page. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you had a good time. I'm gonna try to share some more albums that I've created. I've been doing this for such a long time, but I don't really, all I do is sell my albums on Etsy. I don't really do anything else. But I think it would be fun to share more stuff online. So feel free to let me know how I did. First time ever recording a tutorial. So hopefully it was easy to follow, and hopefully you guys had a good time. Thanks a lot.